Everybody already knows about this one. If you're American and you were ever introduced to Indian food, chances are one of the first things you ever tried was butter chicken. It's one of the tastiest curries on the planet, and it's not that hard to make. I actually did a chicken tikka masala recipe on this channel last year, and it's pretty similar. But so many recipes exist out there for butter chicken, and I'm just going to show you mine. I'm going to start by throwing together the spice rub for this recipe because we're going to use it in both the marinade and the sauce. You're going to need about 3 tablespoons in total of this, and I'll put some estimates down below. It's essentially 2 parts of garam masala to 1 part of cumin, 1 part of ground coriander, 1 part of turmeric, and then 2 parts of Kashmiri chili powder. It's much less spicy than American chili powder, so supplement with paprika if you're using that. Finally, 1 part of ground black pepper. Mix all that together, and we're going to be splitting this into our marinade and our sauce. So starting with the marinade, I have about 3 pounds or 1.5 kilos of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Those get dumped into a bowl, and then I'm going to grate in like 2 cloves of garlic and around a 1-inch knob of ginger. Then I'll add in around 1% of salt by weight, which is going to be 12 grams or like 2 teaspoons. Then I'll spoon in around a cup of whole milk plain yogurt. Try to find non-Greek if you can, but definitely don't use something flavored or something non-fat. Unless you're dieting, of course, then do whatever you want. Then I'll squeeze in like 2 tablespoons or the juice from half of a lemon. I only had lime, so I just used that. It'll work fine too. Lastly, I'll take like 1 tablespoon or like 1/3 of that spice mixture that we made. I just like to go in there with a gloved hand because it's easiest and mix this all until it's incorporated. I cover that in plastic wrap and refrigerate for at least 30 minutes, but you can go up to like 6 hours. This can be done overnight, but I think this is always just fine done the same day. When you're ready to cook this, my best suggestion is to use an oven, especially for this volume of chicken. If you watched my tikka masala video, then you know I struggled to sear those chicken thighs because of the wet marinade. I ended up finishing them in the oven anyway. You could try to wipe off most of the marinade and they'll sear better, but with me only marinating these for like 30 minutes, I didn't want to shake off too much of that flavor. If you let them absorb it longer, it should be fine. Either way, I'm evenly spreading out the chicken thighs across my large baking sheet. I just toss those into my preheated oven at 425 Fahrenheit for like 20 to 30 minutes. You're not going to get an insane amount of Maillard reaction on these because of the marinade, but if you flip them halfway through, you'll get some charring on the bottom. These don't need to look super pretty anyway because we're going to be cutting these up and putting them into the curry sauce. So after letting them rest for a few minutes, I'm just chopping them into bite-sized pieces that we'll be having in the curry. But now for that sauce, I'm getting my large Dutch oven out, and I'm going to add like 4 tablespoons of clarified butter or ghee. Once that's hot, I'm going to add 1 large onion or a few smaller pieces of smaller onions that I had left over, just medium diced. I'm also adding a pinch of salt to start the seasoning process. I'm going to stir those around over high heat for like 5 to 7 minutes to get them soft and a little bit of charring. We don't have the luxury of the fond from cooking the meat in this pot, so we want a little bit of browning on these. At that point, I'll add in another 4 cloves of minced garlic combined with another 1-inch knob of minced ginger. That should be fragrant within a minute, so I'm going to dump in the other 2/3 of my spice mixture. Just a little toasting on this is going to bring out a lot of the flavor. And on that note, I'm also going to add in 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. Probably the best ingredient to add to a fond before deglazing. Stir that around for like another minute or so, but don't let it burn. And then I'll come in with a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes to deglaze. Violently scrape up all those brown bits on the bottom to make sure they don't stick there. I'm also adding in a handful of chopped cilantro stems that I have. I'm using the leaves for garnish anyway, so I wanted to infuse some of the flavor from the stems into the curry. You can heat this until you see it start to bubble and then lower it to a simmer. I just let that go for like 15 to 20 minutes to let the flavors meld. You definitely don't need to slow cook this for several hours. A signature characteristic of butter chicken is a silky smooth sauce. So what we need to do is take this pot and dump it into a blender. You could use an immersion blender, but you're going to have to strain this out, so you might as well dump this into a regular blender. Just let that go on high speed for like 30 seconds to make sure everything is broken up, and then pass it back into your pot through a fine mesh sieve. This is going to take a few minutes because there's a lot of chunks of stuff in here that you have to fight through, all the fibers and seeds of the vegetables that would make this sauce not smooth. But you want to push out the absolute max amount of liquid because that's where all the flavor is, so take your time. You should end up with just the dry, grainy stuff at the end. Don't forget to scrape the bottom of the strainer too because a lot of the liquid sticks to it. Like I said, a beautifully smooth sauce, but we've lost a good bit of volume, so I'm going to put that back over low heat and then add in like a cup of heavy cream. This takes your sauce to the next level and brings all the richness and creaminess that you want. It also turns the curry into that signature bright orange color that everyone loves. You can then dump in all your chopped chicken thighs and stir those to get them coated. We're almost done at this point. We're just warming everything through and then we're going to season this. By the way, if you still feel your volume is too low, you can add a little bit of water or more cream if you want more richness but also more calories. But we're going to finish this by seasoning it to taste. I start with a handful of fenugreek powder. It's got this kind of bitter and fermented flavor that really stands out in a curry like this. Give it a shot if you haven't tried it before. And then one thing this whole dish is really lacking is salt. So add in a good few pinches and keep tasting until it tastes like it should. You could also add more of the chili powder if you want a little bit more spice, but also some more of that red color. So I made an absolutely fatal error here and didn't add butter to this, which is stupid because this is buttered chicken. At least I had the ghee at the beginning. But at the very end, you're supposed to add a few tablespoons of cold butter to melt into the curry. They add even more richness to this and just bring the flavor to a 10. So don't forget that. But if you do, you can always add it to the individual bowls and it's fine there too. But this is done. You can serve this next to some basmati rice, which I'm going to do, but I'm also going to supplement with something like naan. I made naan in my tikka masala video and I still need to work on that, but today I'm opting for something much easier, and that's some frozen paratha. If you have an Indian market near you, go to the freezer section and you'll find lots of bags like this. These things are incredible and they taste fully homemade when you heat them up. All I need to do for mine is grab a non-stick pan and heat it over medium and then dump in my paratha. You just flip that every couple of minutes or so and you see it come to life. It gets these beautiful charred spots on both sides and then kind of puffs up as well. This stuff is so good. But to serve, I've got my bowl of rice that I'm going to start spooning my curry over. I really like how my new camera captures this color. Okay, and I'm going to garnish with a little bit more cream, and the trick is to not pour this from the carton because it comes out too fast and too heavy and it'll sink in your curry. So just pour a little bit into a spoon and kind of drizzle it over. That'll get you those nice thin streaks that stay on top and look pretty. Then just a few of your cilantro leaves and you can serve this next to your warm paratha. Just a super warm and comforting, hearty meal that you can serve to friends and family, or it's great to meal prep for yourself. It tastes good all year round and it's always a treat. Now let's get to the taste test. And unfortunately, I was having some issues with my new camera and getting audio to record through the mic. So you won't hear anything I was saying, but I was just going on about how lovely this dish is, how beautifully all those warm spices come together, and just how comforting and tasty this curry is, even without the necessary butter that I was supposed to put in. Of course, it's made even better with that flaky paratha. Scooping up that curry and eating it with your hands is just a lifetime experience. I hope I can inspire someone to make this dish if they haven't before. It's well worth it. But I appreciate you all bearing with me. Sorry for the difficulties today. Thank you all for watching. Be blessed, and I'll see you next time.